Hello, this is Aaron of SG Gaming Info, and welcome to my video review of Senran Kagura Estival Versus for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita. To date, Senran Kagura games have been known for fun beat-em-up combat and copious amounts of fan service, but after playing through the latest game in the franchise, Estival Versus, I think great character-driven storytelling will have to be added to the list. Estival Versus' story once again brings the 20 well-established characters together as they experience an emotional story that sees them reconnect with those they lost. Estival Versus' story sees the four factions Hanzo Academy, Gessen Girls, Hebjo, and Crimson Squad brought to a world between life and death to take part in the True Shinobi Girls Code Kagura Millennium Festival, an event where shinobi who have died in vain can be laid to rest. The event, which is run by Saori and Makaru sisters, has the four groups and the Makaru sisters fight each other and attempt to destroy one another's festival platforms, with the winning characters being named Kagura, the highest title a shinobi can earn. While at first glance, the story is straightforward, the decision to focus on the characters makes the story great, as members of each of the five groups have incredibly powerful emotional arcs that revolve around trying to reconnect with someone they lost. The emotion shown on screen is incredibly powerful, as we see characters such as Ryobi and Riona grapple with their emotions concerning their dead sister Ryoki, and Hebjo Academy's leader Miyabi having a tearful reunion with her mother. With Estival Versus, the festival story is a crux that exists to lay the groundwork for one of the most emotional stories I have played in a long time. What also adds to the story is the fact that it is a single unified story, which means there isn't a separate story for each team like in previous Senran Kagura titles. Outside of the story, what else is there to do in Estival Versus? Well, there's an online mode, which unfortunately didn't have any players online during my time reviewing the game, a dressing room that allows you to dress up and pose characters, and finally a selection of character specific side stories. It is worth noting that the side stories are best played after completing the main story, as several characters are locked until you destroy a certain number of festival platforms. So enough talk about the story, let's talk about the gameplay. Well, the gameplay is straightforward, as there are just visual novel dialogue scenes and combat. The visual novel dialogue scenes are straightforward, as they are a bunch of characters looking towards you and saying their lines. Combat in Estival Versus is similar to previous Senran Kagura titles, as it is beat 'em up that has you fight hordes of grunts until you fight between 1 and 2 named enemies. Although combat does have some variety with time elements and straight 1-on-1 or 1-on-3 matches, but these are rare. Fighting for me was very much a button mashing affair, and the reason for this was twofold. One, I found it the quickest way to eliminate all the enemies, and two, the constant changing of characters meant that learning all 20 characters' moves would be a chore. Although while the constant changing of characters and as such weapons was at times frustrating, it helped liven up combat. So while I called combat button mashing, I did enjoy it, as smashing through numerous enemies and defeating a named boss was for the most part a good stress reliever, although sometimes the combat was stress inducing, as I began to notice some issues with the combat. The issues for the most part weren't game breaking, but they were equal parts frustrating and immersion breaking. The issues ranged from characters getting stuck on terrain to the camera clipping through the environment. I feel if some of the minor issues were cleaned up, combat would be much better, although I still find the constant changing of characters to be mildly annoying. Before I finish talking about the combat, I have to mention creative finishers, which are a pretty funny closure to a match. For example, if you defeat an enemy near an octopus pot, an octopus will emerge and grope the defeated enemy. Now I think it's time to mention the main contentious point of Senran Kagura games, and of this game too, the fan service. Yes, like previous Senran Kagura games, Estival Versus has a lot of lewd content, with its most obvious being the fact that when either you or your enemies take excessive damage, your clothes get ripped until only their underwear remains, or in some cases no clothes remain at all. But don't worry, the fully stripped characters are covered with a bright light. The lewd content is also seen in the dialogue, with characters such as Riona being an open masochist who loves to be verbally abused, Katsuragi who can't seem to go 5 minutes without wanting to grope another character. So what is my opinion on the fan service? Honestly, I didn't really care. Clothes ripping in combat makes sense, and the lewd conversations didn't really bother me at all, but with that said, if you are uncomfortable with seeing some skin or the odd innuendo, then you might not want to play this game. Now before reaching my conclusion, let's take a brief look at the graphics and audio. Graphically, the game has rich vibrant colours that makes for a colourful experience, but the rich colourful experience causes some minor frame rate issues, especially at the beginning of matches. Audio wise, the game is Japanese audio only with English text, and the music in the game is almost perfect as a lot of sad somber tones hit their mark. So, in conclusion, Senran Kagura Estival Versus offers an incredibly emotional and character driven story with some fun combat. However, immersion breaking issues and excessive fanservice are a slight turn off. With that all said, I give Senran Kagura Estival Versus a score of 8.5 out of 10, with the game's pros being an emotional character driven story, fun button mashing combat, and its music, and the cons are fanservice may turn off those who are not used to the franchise, and numerous immersion breaking issues. Thank you for watching, please like, favourite and subscribe. For more gaming information please visit sggaminginfo.com, and don't forget to like our Facebook page at facebook.com/sggaminginfo, and follow us on Twitter at sggaminginfo.